Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy immersive stories and captivating worlds, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video to support the channel. Now, sit back, relax, and let your imagination take flight. Wishing you peace, wonder, and a truly unforgettable listening experience. The One Who Changed Time. 2078, Colorado. The air was thin and metallic at 12,000 feet above sea level. And silence hung over the National Temporal Observatory like a secret never meant to be told. The chronocyte array, an arc of shimmering metal and translucent sensors, stood at the heart of the complex, pulsing faintly under the protective dome that kept the wind and the world at bay. Dr. Evelyn Hart stood alone before the main interface, her gloved fingers hovering above the glass console. Her face, usually a calm mask of analytical precision, betrayed the faintest flicker of tension. She adjusted her headset and whispered into the mic. Initialize visual stream. June 12, 2058, Denver. Coordinates locked. The screen ignited, slowly blooming into a three-dimensional projection. Evelyn's breath caught. There it was. A city street captured 20 years ago. As vivid as a waking dream. Cars slid by. Pedestrians chatted. Digital ads flashed. And there, crossing at 10th and Lincoln, was her sister Lena. She hadn't seen Lena in any form other than photos for 2 decades. In this temporal feed, Lena was alive, full of motion, smiling faintly at something on her phone, the breeze catching strands of her black hair. Evelyn felt her throat tighten. Chronocyte was built for this, observation only. A one-way mirror to the past. The governing rule had been repeated to her until it was etched into her bones. You can watch, but you cannot touch. Subject identified. The system intoned. Temporal integrity confirmed. Observer path. Non-disruptive. Evelyn's finger trembled as she followed the timeline forward. She knew what was coming. Lena would be struck by a commuter van at precisely 3:24 p.m. Every iteration confirmed the same sequence until now. She zoomed closer. 3:22 p.m. Lena paused at the corner. 3:23. She looked up. And then, unmistakably, she looked straight at Evelyn. It couldn't be. The feed was passive. No one in the past could perceive the observer. Evelyn stumbled back, heart pounding. Static crackled across the image. But the look on Lena's face was clear: recognition, confusion, and then fear. Evelyn terminated the feed. The silence that followed was heavier than before. Somewhere behind her, doors hissed open, and the steady footsteps of Dr. Jace Rowan approached. You went too far, he said without accusation, only warning. She saw me, Evelyn said softly, not turning around. That's impossible. Then something's changed. Rowan stood beside her, watching the still dark console. We built Chronocyte to witness. If what you saw is real, then we're standing on the edge of something dangerous. Evelyn looked at him, her voice calm but firm. Maybe it's not the edge. Maybe it's the door. And in her mind, the image repeated. Lena's eyes meeting hers through time. A rule had been broken. Or perhaps it had never truly been real. Either way, Evelyn knew one thing. She could no longer simply observe. Rowan's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing as if trying to scan Evelyn's thoughts for cracks. If there's a fault in the system, we contain it. We run diagnostics. We do not make assumptions based on visual anomalies. She looked at me. Jace, you can't explain that away. Evelyn turned toward the exit. Pull the system logs from the feed. I want to see every line of code executed during the last session. Already on it, he replied, voice clipped. But if you're right, and the feed wasn't passive, if there was any form of feedback through time, we're talking about a violation of every law we've ever understood. We could be dealing with a paradox loop. Contamination. Worse. Evelyn stopped in the hallway, staring out through the reinforced glass wall that overlooked the snow-dusted peaks of the Rockies. What if it's not contamination? She asked quietly. What if it's a message? Jace didn't answer. They both knew that the system had safety layers. Thousands of interlocks built to ensure that observers could only watch. There were no outputs, no transmissions, no connections to the past beyond pure light and data projection. But somehow, Lena had seen her. That wasn't just a glitch. It was a call. Back in her quarters, Evelyn opened a hidden directory in her private terminal. It was encrypted, off-grid, unsanctioned, and inside it, she kept recordings from every Chronocyte session she'd run outside the official schedule. The logs were clean. Nothing had breached protocol, except that something had. She played the footage again. Frame by frame. Lena walking. Lena pausing. The van approaching. Evelyn could see her own holographic image in the reflection of a shop window. The system didn't usually render the observer's presence in recorded feeds. But there she was. Visible. Lena's gaze shifted slightly. Not just at Evelyn, into her. As if time, in that moment, had thinned to paper. Miles Carter appeared the next morning, balancing a tray of coffee with one hand and a tablet in the other. "I heard you set off every red flag in the building," he said, handing her a cup. "Impressive. I need your help," she said, without preamble. "Something's wrong with the system." He sat down beside her. More serious now. "You think the feed responded?" "I think there's a blind spot in our assumptions. What if the past can see us under the right conditions? What if this entire time we've been transmitting without knowing it?" Miles leaned back. "If that's true, then this place isn't an observatory. It's a weapon." The implication chilled her. If chronosight had even the faintest potential to alter the past, it could unravel history itself. Wars could be undone, births prevented, people erased. She hesitated, then played the clip. Miles leaned forward, squinting. "Whoa, she really does look straight at you. And I didn't render myself into the projection." He stood up, already connecting dots in his mind. "We have to find the anomaly. If there's a breach in the containment layer, it may not be limited to this feed." Evelyn looked up at him. "We're not telling Jace." "Not yet." "You don't trust him?" "I don't trust anyone who builds a window into time and never wonders what's looking back." They both fell silent. The only sound the low hum of cooling fans and the snow tapping against the window. Somewhere deep beneath them, chronosight waited, alive in a way no machine should be. And Evelyn knew. She wasn't done watching the past. The past had started watching her. That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. The thought of Lena's gaze, so vivid, so undeniably aware, haunted her. She lay on her back, staring at the low ceiling of her quarters, listening to the distant hum of the observatory's systems. In the darkness, her mind kept circling the same question: what changed? By 3 a.m., she was back in the lab. The corridor to chronosight was bathed in dim blue light. Officially, the system was offline for routine maintenance. Unofficially, Evelyn had overridden the lockdown. The logs were set to auto-delete every trace of her access within 4 hours. She knew how to cover her tracks. She'd done it before, but never for something like this. She stood before the interface again, keyed in the date manually. June 12, 2058. Only this time, she shifted the coordinates 3 blocks south. 30 minutes earlier, if there really was a breach, it might have extended beyond Lena. Perhaps the city itself had felt it. The image bloomed, Denver again, humming with life. She watched people come and go, vehicles weaving through intersections, unaware they were being observed from 50 years in the future. Evelyn scanned the crowd, dozens of faces, hundreds of moments, but nothing unusual, until a man in a gray coat paused near a newspaper vendor. He turned, looked straight into the projected feed, into her, and smiled. Evelyn gasped. He walked away a moment later, vanishing into the stream of people. But she froze the image and zoomed in. His face was sharp, deliberate, eyes locked with the camera. She whispered, "Who the hell are you?" A notification blinked in the corner of the interface. Signal discrepancy detected. Source unknown. Her heart thundered. This wasn't just another glitch. Someone, something, had penetrated the temporal wall. Lena's recognition. Now this man's response. It was too coordinated to be random. She ran a scan for trace signals, searching for non-native transmissions embedded in the feed. To her disbelief, she found one. A faint pulse, buried deep within the photonic stream, repeating like a coded heartbeat. It wasn't natural. It wasn't from her system. And it had a signature. Ident. Vanth 47. She didn't recognize the code, but the prefix struck her. Vanth, the Etruscan guide of souls to the underworld. It was mythological, cryptic, and deliberate. Footsteps echoed behind her. She turned, only to find Miles. He looked pale, his tablet clutched tightly in his hand. "I found something in the archived feeds. Same anomaly. 3 other observers reported unexplained subject behavior last year. All suppressed." "Suppressed by who?" she asked. He held out the tablet. "Rowan." He flagged and encrypted the files. Internal access only. No external audits. Evelyn swallowed hard. Then he knows. Miles nodded. And I think he's trying to control it. Or worse, contact it. Suddenly, the chronosite interface flared white-hot, blinding them both. The feed snapped off. An emergency alarm echoed through the lab. Temporal breach detected. System lockdown initiated. Miles cursed. Did you trigger that? Evelyn shook her head, shielding her eyes from the brightness. No, I think it did. Then the lights cut out. And the past, or something buried in it, began to bleed forward. Emergency backup lights flickered on, casting long, skeletal shadows across the lab. The main chronosite terminal had gone dark. Every screen frozen on the same error. Temporal breach confirmed. Phase integrity compromised. Evelyn stepped back from the console. Her pulse pounded in her ears. A mix of fear and adrenaline. Miles was already scanning the terminal with a portable diagnostics kit, trying to bring it back online. Whatever just happened, he said, eyes darting between readouts. It wasn't a malfunction. This was a forced entry, like someone broke in from the other side. Evelyn stared at the frozen frame on the primary screen, the man in the gray coat. Still mid-step, mid-smile, his eyes locked onto hers even through the digital haze. I don't think he's from the past, she whispered. Miles looked up sharply. You think he's from the future? No, she said slowly. I think he's from outside time. That word hung in the air like static. Neither dared say it, but both were thinking it. Chronal intelligence. A theory whispered in fringe conferences and black-budget projects. Consciousness unbound by linear time. Watching, learning, maybe even feeding from the cracks in human perception. Suddenly, the intercom crackled to life with a voice neither of them expected. Evelyn Drake, Miles Carter, you've made contact. Return to containment hall. Now. Rowan. His voice was colder than usual. Stripped of pretense. Miles blinked. How does he know? He's been monitoring off-grid sessions. Evelyn cut in. He must have hardwired surveillance into chronosite's sublayer. Evelyn grabbed her coat and moved for the exit. We're going, but not to obey. Miles followed. Then what? We're going to find out what the hell Rowan's been hiding. Blank. Blank. The containment hall wasn't a place most chronosite staff ever saw. It was 3 levels beneath the main observation deck, behind biometric seals and more security layers than the president's bunker. But Evelyn had clearance, and more importantly, questions. The door hissed open to reveal a room that was part lab, part vault, and at its center, encased in a transparent cylinder of quantum-stabilized glass, was a machine unlike anything Evelyn had seen in chronosite. It looked alive. Organic arcs of dark metal curved like ribs over a glowing core. Patterns of light pulsed across its surface in rhythmic intervals. The design was clearly not human. Not fully. Rowan stood before it, flanked by 2 internal security officers. You shouldn't have gone into the unscheduled feeds, he said, but now that you've seen it, there's no going back. Evelyn stepped forward. What is that? Rowan gestured to the machine behind him. We call it the Echo Engine. It's not from our time. We found it embedded beneath the Greenland ice shelf. Carbon dating couldn't place it. He paused. Because it doesn't exist in linear time. Miles exhaled, stunned. You've been using it to bridge chronosite. Rowan nodded. Chronosite was never just observation. It was an interface, training wheels. Preparing us to understand what this machine truly is. And the man in the gray coat? Evelyn demanded. The signal, Vanth 47. Who is he? Rowan's expression darkened. He's not a man. He's what the Echo Engine calls a sentinel. A fragment of whatever intelligence built the machine. He wasn't supposed to appear in the feed. Something's changed. Evelyn turned to the cylinder. You've been trying to talk to them, haven't you? Rowan didn't answer. But the lights pulsed again, in perfect sync with the Echo Engine's rhythm. And then, the room filled with a sound, impossibly deep. Like a memory being played backward. On the far wall, a screen blinked on. Text appeared. Hello, Evelyn Drake. You are seen. She felt a chill run through her body. This wasn't a discovery. It was a recruitment. And the past wasn't just watching anymore. It was calling her by name. Evelyn stood frozen, her eyes locked on the glowing words on the screen. Hello, Evelyn Drake. You are seen. The message was simple, but it struck with the weight of an avalanche. She wasn't just observing history anymore, she had become part of it. tangled in something far older and far more intelligent than anyone in the facility had imagined. Miles stepped forward. They know you, personally. Evelyn shook her head slowly. No, not just, no, they've been watching. Waiting. Rowan's voice broke the silence. That's why we kept the echo engine locked down. It's not just a machine. It's a key. And once we turned it, we opened a door we don't understand. The echo engine pulsed again, almost as if it were listening, responding. The screen flickered with another line of text. She has seen the fracture. She remembers the end. Miles whispered. What fracture? Rowan looked grim. Chronocyte wasn't our first attempt at observation. There was an earlier project, codenamed HELIX-9. Evelyn's mother was part of it. Evelyn turned to him sharply. My mother died in a lab accident when I was 10. She didn't, Rowan said quietly. She disappeared. During an unsanctioned experiment. We buried the project. You were never told the truth. Evelyn's stomach twisted. Why me? Why now? But the echo engine answered before Rowan could. Because time is folding. And you are the axis. The room trembled. Not violently, but subtly. Unnaturally. Evelyn felt the air grow heavier. As if reality itself had thickened around her. Rowan moved to the control panel beside the cylinder. The engine isn't stable anymore. The breach it opened is widening. And if we don't seal it soon. Before he could finish, the echo engine flared. A deep resonance filled the chamber. The pulse became a thrum. And then, a voice. It was layered. Neither male nor female. Neither mechanical nor organic. It spoke through the engine. Through the room. Through Evelyn. Evelyn Drake. Fragment of observer. Host of memory. You are chosen to bear the convergence. She staggered back. What the hell does that mean? The cylinder hissed. A sliver of the containment field peeled open, not fully. Just enough for a tendril of light to reach toward her. She didn't move. Couldn't. Then she remembered. Not her life. Not her past. But something else. A field of stars collapsing. An ancient city suspended in time. A group of beings, observers? Engineers, standing before a swirling vortex that threatened to consume everything? And her, standing in the center of it all. Hands raised. A machine behind her just like the echo engine. No, not like, the same. She had been there before. Evelyn fell to her knees. Miles rushed to her side. But she stopped him with a hand. Her eyes were glowing faintly now. The same hue as the engine's pulse. I remember. She whispered. This isn't the first time. I've done this before. Rowan looked stricken. What do you mean, before? Evelyn stood. Taller now. Steadier. Time's not a line. It's a spiral. And I'm the thread. The echo engine's core split open, revealing a crystalline interface glowing with impossible energy. The voice spoke one last time. Prepare for re-entry. Phase 1. Initiation. And then the lab disappeared. Evelyn, Miles, and Rowan were swallowed by light. And history was never the same again. Darkness. Not the absence of light, but the absence of time. For a moment, Evelyn had no body, no breath, no thoughts. She was being dispersed through something infinite. Every timeline she had seen, every memory she'd ever had, and countless more that weren't hers, poured through her like a river of mirrors. She was Evelyn Drake. She was someone else. She was everyone who had ever touched the echo engine across time. And then, impact. She gasped awake. Air burned in her lungs like fire. A humid wind pressed against her face. Distantly, a low hum. Machines? Insects? Buzzed beyond a thick wall of trees? She was lying in dirt, wrapped in twisted roots and tangled moss. It was a jungle, but not Earth's. A rusted monolith jutted from the ground nearby, inscribed with symbols she had seen only in fleeting flashes of her visions. A voice called from her right. Evelyn? She turned. Miles stumbled toward her, scraped but alive. Behind him, Rowan emerged from a thicket, clutching his ribs. What the hell just happened? Miles croaked. I think. Evelyn stood, her knees shaking. I think we're not in time anymore. Rowan scanned the landscape. This isn't the past, or the future. It's the between. Evelyn whispered. A convergence point. They were standing on the edge of a massive crater, half covered in alien vegetation. In its center, a ruined structure that looked half technology, half fossil. An ancient version of the echo engine, cracked open like a seed pod. As they stared, a shimmer passed over the sky, like a skipped frame in a film. Miles flinched. Did time just glitch? Rowan's voice was low, reverent. We're inside the fracture. Then came the voice again, not spoken aloud, but directly into their minds. Welcome to the archive. Witness. Remember. Decide. Suddenly, the ruined machine lit up. Holographic images burst from its broken core, a parade of possible futures. A city of light consumed by its own energy source. A world trapped in a permanent yesterday, where no child was ever born again. A planet evacuated not because of war or plague, but because time itself had collapsed inward. And then, a choice appeared before them. 3 symbols, hovering in the air like celestial switches. 1. A spiral turning inward. 2. A mirrored infinity loop. 3. A fractured hourglass. Each pulsed with meaning Evelyn couldn't explain, but deeply knew. Miles backed away. We're not supposed to be here. This is way beyond us. No, Evelyn said. This is why we exist. Why we built Chronosite. Why the Echo engine chose us. Rowan stepped forward. We choose a path, and it becomes real? Or we stay still, Evelyn said softly, and let all paths end. They stood there, the 3 of them, at the center of time's wound. The archive pulsed, waiting. Evelyn raised her hand toward the fractured hourglass. Because she remembered the fall. And this time, she would be the one to stop it. To be continued? The moment Evelyn's fingers touched the symbol of the fractured hourglass, the air shivered, not in sound, but in structure. Reality twisted around them like a curtain being pulled back. And for an instant, they stood inside a kaleidoscope of timelines, fractals of futures and broken presents. A million selves all making a million different choices. And then, silence. They were no longer in the jungle. No longer in the archive. Instead, they stood in a stark white corridor. Featureless and endless. The air was sterile, artificial. The light above cast no shadow. And the walls felt too smooth, like they weren't built, but simply existed. Rowan whispered, "Where are we now?" Evelyn looked down at her hand. The hourglass symbol now shimmered faintly in her skin, branded into her. She turned slowly. We're inside a constructed timeline. A prototype. Maybe. One that was abandoned. Or worse, erased. As if to answer her. The corridor lit up with an image on the far wall, a flickering projection. A woman. Mid-30s. Dark hair tied back. Lab coat dusted with ash. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. It was her mother. Dr. Helena Drake. Project Helix 9 log. Date 394. The recording played. Static tearing through her voice. The breach is permanent. Observation isn't enough. We thought we could peer through the glass and remain untouched. But the glass is a mirror. And now it's cracked. Helena's image looked directly at Evelyn, though recorded decades ago. If you're hearing this, it means the spiral has reached you. The system chose you. And that means you can do what I couldn't. Miles looked at Evelyn. She knew you'd find this. The recording glitched again. The hourglass isn't broken, it's being flipped. Time isn't ending, it's being rewritten. And the only way to control the rewrite is from the anchor point. The screen faded. The corridor pulsed with new life. A panel slid open at the end, revealing a circular chamber bathed in dim amber light. Inside was another engine, sleeker than the one at Chronosite. Fused with organic tendrils and crystalline arcs. In its center hovered a pulsing sphere, slowly rotating in place, surrounded by floating shards, memories, fragments, decisions. Evelyn stepped forward, entranced. She could feel them, moments not yet lived, regrets not yet felt, choices never made. One of the shards drifted toward her. It showed Miles, older, standing in a city made of glass and fog, holding something that glowed like a star. Another shard showed Rowan, alone in a collapsing lab, his hand reaching for a button that could erase everything. Then came the third shard. It showed Evelyn, standing at the edge of a chasm, facing a mirror version of herself, eyes cold, face emotionless, as if time had burned away every part of her that was still human. She staggered back. "What is this place?" Miles asked. Rowan answered, voice low. "It's the decision core, the place where timelines are forged. Or forgotten." The sphere spoke again, not with words, but with meaning, a feeling embedded in thought. One bearer, one thread, one choice. Evelyn turned to them both. "I have to go in. Alone." Miles stepped forward. "No, you don't know what it'll do to you." "I do," she said, "because I've already seen it." She placed her palm against the sphere. And the world split open, again. Evelyn's hand sank into the sphere like it was made of liquid glass. A surge of sensation crashed through her. Not pain, something deeper. A collapsing wave of lives unlived. Paths untaken. Screams muffled by time. Her own memories fractured and recombined. She was 9, watching her mother walk into a lab that would later explode. She was 16, refusing to join Chronocyte. She was 30, watching Rowan die in a different timeline. She was none of these. She was all of them. Her body faded, mind unraveling and reforming. When her feet found ground again, the chamber was gone. She stood in a vast expanse, gray skies. No horizon. The architecture of raw time around her. Clockwork monoliths suspended mid-collapse. Bridges made of ticking gears. Staircases that began in the past and ended in the possible. And standing at the center of it all, her other self. The mirror Evelyn. Older, paler, eyes devoid of hope, yet full of clarity. She wore a version of the Chronocyte suit. Twisted and merged with alien tech. Evelyn approached. Cautious. You're me. I was. The other said. Before I chose stagnation. Before I chose not to act. The mirror Evelyn gestured around them. This is what's left when no decision is made. A loop without resolve. Time withers here, Evelyn. And it is starving. Evelyn's voice shook. Why show me this? To remind you. Indecision is also a choice. The void pulsed. The sound of ticking grew louder. A portal opened behind Evelyn. A swirling gate of golden gears and light. Through it, she saw flashes of what could be. Rowan, saving Chronocyte's research by sending it back in time. Miles, building a beacon in the fractured timeline. Giving survivors hope. Evelyn, herself, leading a rebellion against the very laws of temporal determinism. You have one chance, the other Evelyn said. Choose action, and the timeline stabilizes. Choose silence, and we vanish forever. Evelyn stepped forward. Then I choose now. She leapt into the gate. Blank. Blank. Light. Wind. Gravity. Return. She landed hard, back in the real echo engine chamber. The sphere above now burned with a golden core. Miles rushed forward. You disappeared for 20 seconds. Are you okay? Evelyn looked at him, really looked, and smiled. No, but I will be. Rowan was already scanning the console. The engine's readings just synced with every major chrono anomaly we've ever recorded. Evelyn, I think you just anchored reality. She stared at the sphere pulsing above. Not anchored, directed. Outside, the world would begin to change. Time wouldn't be the enemy anymore. It would be the canvas. And she would be the artist. The sky above New Manhattan shimmered with a hue it had never known before, neither dawn nor dusk. But something in between, chronolite, the scientists had started calling it. At the heart of the city, where the skyline once bore only concrete and steel, now stood the Time Spire, a structure built from remnants of fractured timelines. Repurposed by Evelyn and her team, it pulsed with quiet energy, keeping the threads of reality aligned. It had been 6 months since the anchor event, since Evelyn returned, since the world changed. Most people had no memory of what had been lost. That was part of the design. Rowan's failsafe wiped non-essential timelines from collective awareness to protect the population from collapse-level paradox trauma. But Evelyn remembered everything. She stood now at the observation deck, looking down at a city that had unknowingly teetered at the edge of non-existence. Miles approached, a datapad in hand, his grin familiar. The Pacific thread stabilized. No ripple backlash. Even Kyoto is reporting chrono harmony. He paused. We might have done it. Evelyn didn't answer immediately. Her eyes traced the sky. We bought time, she said softly. That's all we ever really do. Rowan entered behind them, his face more lined but his eyes alive. The council wants you to speak at the Unity Accord next week. Evelyn turned, surprised. Me? They're calling you the mother of time now. Kind of hard to ignore. He smirked. Even if you hate speeches. She gave a soft laugh. Tell them I'll come, but I won't wear white robes. They stood in companionable silence for a moment. The wind passed through the open terrace, carrying with it the faint hum of aligned timelines. Then, Rowan spoke again. Helena would be proud of you. Evelyn blinked away the sudden sting in her eyes. I hope so. A pause. What now? Miles asked. Evelyn turned back to the Time Spire. There's still a rogue shard somewhere in the continental drift. The readings aren't stable. Someone, or something, is rewriting a pocket loop. Rowan raised an eyebrow. More travelers? Possibly. Evelyn's gaze sharpened. But this time, we'll be ready. She walked toward the launch deck. Wind pulling at her coat. The world was whole. For now. But time was alive. Always moving. And Evelyn Drake had learned to move with it. The future was no longer a mystery. It was a mission. End of Book 1. The ripple came at 3:17 a.m. Evelyn sat bolt upright in her quarters above the time spire. The air around her buzzing like the hum of a failing transformer. Her chrono band was blinking red. A direct signal, unauthorized incursion. Localized in North Dakota, a zone that hadn't seen activity since the pre-stabilization era. She was already moving. Down the hall, the operations center lit up in coordinated chaos. Miles was pulling on his coat. Rowan barking orders into a comlink. The room smelled like ozone and tension. Coordinates locked, Rowan said. But this isn't just a temporal glitch. It's spatial. He tapped a hologram. A fold opened inside a stabilized zone. That shouldn't be possible. Miles threw a glance at Evelyn. Unless someone inside is trying to break out. Evelyn's blood chilled. Patch me into visual. The screen lit up. At first, nothing, just barren prairie. The dark hush of America's Central Plains. Then a tear in the fabric of reality shimmered open like a curtain being pulled back. And through it stepped a boy. Maybe 16, maybe not human. He looked directly into the sky-facing drone, lifted his hand, and snapped his fingers. The drone exploded. The screen went dark. Rowan swore. That's not time travel. That's timeline manipulation. Evelyn didn't hesitate. Prep the jump shuttle, she said. We leave in 15. Miles stared. Evelyn, we don't know what he is. She fastened her chrono band. Voice steady. Then it's time we find out. As the launch deck lit up beneath her boots, Evelyn felt the weight of the future pressing in again. Time had stabilized, but it hadn't surrendered. Not yet. And maybe it never would. The wind over the North Dakota plains was sharp enough to cut skin. Evelyn stepped out of the shuttle. Chrono band pulsing against her wrist like a second heartbeat. The breach site was quiet, eerily so. Rowan and Miles flanked her, armed with neutralizers tuned for temporal anomalies. Though none of them had faced a situation like this before. Not since Helena. Scan shows no anomalies, Miles muttered, sweeping the area. But that can't be right. Evelyn knelt by a patch of scorched earth. The grass here had aged and died in a perfect circle. Like time had been drawn out of it. A faint metallic tang hung in the air, ozone mixed with something older. Something wrong. Then the boy's voice echoed behind them. You're late. They spun around. He stood by a twisted old oak. Hands in the pockets of a coat that looked like it had stepped out of a 1920s boarding school. His eyes shimmered silver, not a reflection. But something deeper. Evelyn took a step forward. You opened a fold. How? He tilted his head. I didn't open it. I am it. Rowan's grip on the neutralizer tightened. Who are you? The boy grinned. Call me Felix. Everyone else does. Everyone else? Evelyn asked. He took a step forward. And the wind shifted again. For a second, Evelyn saw something behind his shoulder, like 100 other versions of him. Flickering in and out of reality. All standing in different timelines. All watching her. He wasn't a traveler. He was a nexus. I came to warn you, Felix said, but you won't listen yet. Not until the collapse begins. What collapse? Miles asked sharply. Felix turned his eyes to the horizon. The one you started, when you broke the observation rule. When you touched time. Evelyn's stomach dropped. He smiled again, but this time it held no warmth. Every moment you saved cost another moment somewhere else. Time's not a river. It's a net. You pulled too hard. It snaps. Evelyn whispered. Felix nodded. And then he vanished. Not blinked out. Not phased. He reversed. Rewinding back into the timeline fold like a reel of tape pulled backwards. The air stilled. Rowan's voice was low. This isn't a warning. It's a countdown. Evelyn looked down at her chrono band. The red blink had stopped. Replaced by a pulse. Counting down from 23 hours 59 minutes and 59 seconds. One day. 24 hours until something. And they didn't even know what. The air over California shimmered like heat haze. But it wasn't hot. Not anymore. Evelyn stood on the ridge outside what used to be San Oro. a mid-sized city with a population of 80,000. Now, it looked as if someone had taken an eraser to the landscape. Roads faded into nothing, buildings glitched in and out of existence. A school clock spun backward, while a lamppost flickered as if trying to decide which year it belonged to. 3 hours had gone missing. Not in the metaphoric sense. Literally, people had called emergency services reporting that time had jumped. Their phones went dead. The sun set, then rose again within seconds. Surveillance footage confirmed it. Reality rewound and replayed a segment of time multiple times in a feedback loop. But each iteration grew, corrupted. "This is the first fracture," Felix said softly beside her, his eyes distant, almost reverent, "just like it started in my time." Helena shivered, wrapping her jacket tighter. "And this is just the beginning?" "No." Felix turned to them. "This is the warning." They descended into what remained of Sonoro's city archives, now half submerged beneath a crumbled municipal building. Evelyn's scanner buzzed. Anomalies in the time field. They were following weak chronometric pulses. The trail led to an iron vault door marked Project Paradox, classified. The name sent a spike of recognition through Evelyn. Her fingers hesitated on the keypad. She'd never heard of this facility. But some part of her had. The vault hissed open. Inside, there was dust and a working terminal. Ancient tech. Fiber optic inputs. Quantum circuit nodes. It was still powered, connected to something deeper underground. Evelyn plugged in her scanner. A file loaded. Video log. EP001. The grainy screen flickered to life. It was her. Evelyn blinked. Not just someone who looked like her, this was her. Older. Worn. Her voice rasped, but unmistakably hers. "If you're watching this, then you ignored every warning. Like I did. I thought I could observe history without affecting it. I was wrong. Every second I watched, I changed something, just by being there. They told me we couldn't touch time. But time touched me back. Now, everything's falling apart. Every timeline is bleeding into the next. I've seen futures where we burn, freeze, vanish. I tried to stop it. I became something else trying. And now, I need you to finish what I couldn't." The screen went black. Evelyn's breath caught. What was that?" Helena stared at her. "That was you." Felix's voice was grim. "No, that was Evelyn Prime." Evelyn turned. "You've seen her before? She's the version of you that kept trying to fix the past." Felix said, until she decided the only solution was to delete every timeline but the one she chose. Helena took a step back. "She's not trying to save time. She's trying to rewrite it." The vault lights flickered. A pulse surged through the ground. And far above them, the sky fractured, just for a second, like cracked glass stretching across the heavens. The silence in the vault was unnatural. Not just a lack of sound, but the absence of time itself. As though every tick, breath, and heartbeat had been swallowed by the fracture overhead. Felix moved first, stepping toward a back corridor hidden behind rusted data servers. "There's more down here," he said, fingers trailing along the walls. This wasn't just a containment site, it was a testing ground. Helena followed him cautiously, her flashlight beam cutting through decades of undisturbed dust. Evelyn lingered, eyes fixed on the dark terminal screen, replaying the message in her head. "Time touched me back." They descended deeper into the facility. Walls gave way to reinforced alloy. Warning signs lined the halls. Temporal radiation zone. Authorized personnel only, level Omega. Do not observe test subjects. Felix stopped. This is where they tried to simulate divergence. Evelyn frowned. Simulate what? Multiple versions of a single subject, split across timelines. Brought into shared existence. They called it Project Paradox because it attempted to break the one rule we never challenge: that a person could not coexist with themselves. "And it worked?" Helena asked. Felix gave a half smile. Half grimace. "You're talking to the result." The door ahead unlocked with a heavy metallic groan. Inside was a circular chamber. 7 pods surrounded a central node, each marked with a subject number. Evelyn moved to the closest one. Its glass was shattered. Inside was a collapsed chair. Restraints torn free. Suddenly, a hum of energy. A voice. "Step away from that." Helena turned sharply, drawing a sidearm. The figure in the doorway was unmistakable. Her posture. Her face. But not Evelyn. She was taller. Colder. Her uniform bore the insignia of a program Evelyn had only seen referenced in blacked-out files, Chrono Directive. She carried herself like someone used to command. And her eyes, Evelyn recognized them immediately. "Helena?" Evelyn whispered. The newcomer tilted her head. "Not your Helena." Felix's expression darkened. "Oh no." The alternate Helena stepped fully into the room. "I came here to warn you. You're on the wrong side of the breach." Evelyn stared. "You're from a different timeline." "Yes, one where you're dead," she said calmly. "You tried to close the collapse from inside. It failed. You became her, Evelyn Prime." Evelyn shook her head. "No, that's not possible." The alternate Helena walked toward her. "I've seen it. You become obsessed. You start erasing anomalies. You say it's the only way to stabilize the streams. Eventually, there's only one version of the truth left, hers." Helena, Evelyn's Helena, stepped forward. "What are you doing here?" "I'm trying to stop what's coming. I've been tracking Prime's trail across timelines. She's accelerating the collapse, compressing realities into a single thread. If she succeeds, the rest of us vanish." Felix's voice was low. "What happens if we kill her?" The alternate Helena didn't blink. "You can't kill her. She's inside the fracture. She is the fracture now." A sudden alarm blared. Evelyn looked up at the security monitor. Outside the vault, a rift had opened in midair. Shadows moved through it, blurry humanoid figures, glitching between frames of time. "Temporal wraiths," Felix said, dread in his voice. "Remnants of broken timelines. Once Prime deletes a version of reality, they're what's left behind. And they're coming for us." The alternate Helena said. Evelyn stared at the monitor. "Jaw tight. Then we make our stand." The vault doors shuddered under the pressure. Evelyn, Helena, and Felix scrambled through a reinforced passage to the command chamber, an observation deck once used by scientists to monitor early tests. The alternate Helena followed, her boots silent against the metal floor, gaze scanning every panel and shadow. "We have maybe 2 minutes before they breach," Felix said, prying open a control panel and reconnecting emergency power. "If those things reach the reactor core, this whole site goes nonlinear." Evelyn's voice was low, focused. "You said she's accelerating the collapse. How do we trace her path?" The alternate Helena placed a compact black device on the console. It unfurled like a flower, tiny sensors rising and spinning. "This is a fractal lens. It visualizes temporal residue. Think of it like a heat map of decision points. We'll track anomalies back to their divergence origin." The chamber dimmed, then bloomed with light. Fractals, brilliant, jagged lines, spread across the holographic projection like cracks in glass. Each line pulsed with memory, possibility, and loss. Evelyn stepped closer. "What's this cluster?" Helena examined it. "That's you. Every time you accessed the past to observe, and every time something changed." Felix narrowed his eyes. "I thought she couldn't change anything." "She didn't," said the alternate Helena. "You did." The accusation hung heavy. Evelyn turned. "I followed every protocol, every safeguard. You think I—" The console blared a sharp tone. The lens refocused on a new origin. A forgotten sub-node marked Echo Point 27b. Felix gasped. "That's where you observed the fire at Waverly Labs. 6 years ago. That's when the first instability appeared." "I never interfered," Evelyn said. "But you wanted to," Helena replied gently. "Even thinking it, wishing it, can leave an imprint when you're inside the stream." The alternate Helena cut in. And Prime used that imprint as a tether. She anchored herself to your moment of doubt. Another boom. One of the security feeds shattered, then another. The creatures were almost through. Evelyn looked at the hologram. Then at the door. "We go back to 27b. We cut the tether. We stop her before she becomes that." Felix hesitated. "But we'll be going into a stream she controls. That's suicide." "No," Evelyn said. "It's the only way." Alternate Helena removed a second device from her belt, a temporal anchor. "This will keep us synchronized. Once inside, we have 10 minutes before she detects us." Helena touched Evelyn's arm. "And if she finds us first?" Evelyn met her gaze. "Then we finish what I should have done a long time ago." The lens recalibrated. The room began to distort, the air thickening as time itself bent around them. Destination locked. The system confirmed. And with that, the chamber went dark. Time inverted. The world reassembled itself in shattered fragments. Heat, screams, smoke curling along the ceiling of a white laboratory-turned-tomb. Evelyn staggered as her boots landed on the tile floor of Waverly Labs. 6 years in the past. The fire alarm screeched overhead. Papers swirled like falling ash. Somewhere to their right, a containment chamber had already ruptured, raw energy spilling into the air like liquid lightning. "This is it," Felix shouted over the chaos. Moment zero. The first tear. Evelyn clutched the anchor disc strapped to her chest, feeling the pulse of it sinking with her biological signature. Her eyes darted to the hallway beyond the blast door. "I remember this," she murmured. "I was just down the corridor, observing through the stream, but I never stepped inside." Alternate Helena moved like a shadow, slipping ahead. "You didn't." "She did." As if summoned, the hallway shimmered. A figure emerged, blurred, indistinct, phasing between timelines like a corrupted film reel. It was Evelyn, or rather, a version of her. Eyes glowing faintly, movements too fluid, too deliberate. "Prime." Helena instinctively stepped forward, weapon raised. "Evelyn, stop." Prime tilted her head, a slow, unsettling smile spreading across her face. "Too late," she whispered. The world twisted. Reality flickered, folding in on itself. Suddenly, they were outside the lab. Then inside again. Then, gone. They landed in a broken memory. Time suspended mid-shatter. A child's drawing floating in the air. Coffee frozen mid-pour. A technician blinking, eyelid never finishing its motion. "Where are we?" Felix asked. In her mind, alternate Helena said. In her stream, she's trying to fragment us. Separate us. Trap us in loops. Then we hold on to something real. Evelyn said. Each other. She reached for Helena's hand, felt it, and focused. A flare of clarity. They dropped into another memory. This time, Evelyn's childhood bedroom. Posters on the walls. A telescope by the window. The faint sound of wind chimes outside. It was peaceful, until the shadows began to crawl. Prime's voice echoed across the walls. "You think I chose this? To remember every version of myself that died trying to fix your mistakes? You're the one rewriting history." Evelyn shouted. "You're collapsing timelines. I'm preserving truth." Prime hissed. "One Evelyn. One reality. That's the only way to end the fracture." "No," Evelyn said, stepping forward. "You're scared. You think if enough versions of us disappear, the pain will vanish too. But that's not healing. That's erasure." Prime lunged. But this time, Evelyn was ready. She activated the anchor. A pulse surged outward, ripping the memory apart. They plunged again, falling through layers of Evelyn's past. Back through the moment she first accessed Stream 27B. Then, suddenly, they were back in the observation chamber. 6 years ago. Smoke, fire, alarms. But this time, Prime stood still, disoriented, connected to the stream, but weakened by the anchor's interference. "You're not the only one who learned how to navigate this," Evelyn said. She approached, raising the override module. "I'm sorry. I know why you did it. But this ends here." Prime looked at her, for one last time, and whispered. "I just wanted to save us." Then Evelyn pressed the trigger. Light engulfed the chamber. And Prime, unraveled. Silence fell. No alarms. No fire. No fracture. Evelyn opened her eyes to the observation chamber. Now eerily calm. The fractured glass had reassembled. The containment breach was gone. Outside the windows, Waverly Labs thrummed with quiet energy. Exactly as it had before the fire, before Prime. Helena touched the console. "We're still in the past. But it's change," Felix whispered. "The rupture, it never happened. Time stabilized." Alternate Helena studied the readings on her wristband. The stream's returning to equilibrium. Prime's influence has been erased. Evelyn looked down at her hands. They were trembling, not with fear, with something like grief. "She was me," Evelyn said quietly. "Not just aversion. She carried all my regrets. My guilt. I hated her because she remembered everything I wanted to forget." Felix put a hand on her shoulder. "She was a ghost trying to rewrite the past. You're the one trying to protect the future." Helena added. "You stopped a collapse across every known timeline. You did the one thing no one else could." But Evelyn didn't feel victorious. She felt hollow. "Can we go back to our time?" she asked. Alternate Helena nodded. "Yes, the anchor still holds. But when we return, don't expect it to be exactly the same." Felix frowned. "Wait, if this past never burned, then Waverly Labs never shut down. The Chrono Initiative was never suspended. That means everything's changed, Helena said. Our present won't be the one we left. Evelyn took a breath. Then let's find out what we saved. They activated the return protocol. The room shimmered, collapsed, and reformed. Blank. Blank. They emerged in the restored Chrono Initiative compound. It was no longer abandoned. The lights were on. Security drones floated overhead. Scientists bustled through the halls. And on every screen, the logo of the temporal accord glowed. What is this place now? Felix asked. A voice behind them said, "Home." They turned. A woman approached. Late 50s. Short-cropped gray hair. A badge on her coat that read, Director Evelyn Glass. It was her. An older Evelyn, one who had never fractured. "I knew you'd return," Director Evelyn said with a smile. "You saved us, didn't you?" Evelyn, our Evelyn, stepped forward slowly. "You remember me? I remember who I used to be. And I remember making a choice to let go of the past." She gestured toward the main console. "Come on, there's someone I want you to meet." They followed her into the command dome. There, inside a transparent containment shell, floated a new construct, neither machine nor mind. A memory archive built from stabilized fragments of Prime. "She's not gone," the director said. "We couldn't let her fade entirely. She had insights, warnings. She saw dangers we never imagined." Evelyn stared at the sphere. "What is she now?" "Proof," the director said, "that even when we break, something of us can still remain, to protect what matters." Silence settled over them. For the first time, Evelyn didn't feel haunted. She felt whole. Blank. Blank. End of Volume 2. Volume 3. The Origin Paradox. They said time was linear. They were wrong. Evelyn stood on the edge of the Horizon Gate, a new device built atop the ruins of the original Chrono Initiative. The Accord had grown, spanning continents, united by one mission, to preserve time. And yet, in every briefing, every simulation, one anomaly remained. An origin, a signal too old to trace, yet undeniably human. "It predates everything," Director Evelyn Glass had said, pointing to the deep temporal scans. "Before us, before Prime, before the fracture, someone, something, started all this." Now Evelyn, Felix, and Helena were chosen for the first outbound mission into pre-temporal space, a realm before recorded history. Before structure, where time had yet to find order. No backup, Helena reminded them. "Once we cross, we're cut off." Evelyn tightened her gloves. "Then let's make it count." They activated the core. Light exploded, and the universe blinked. Blank. Blank. When they awoke, there was no ground beneath them, no stars above. Only motion, and silence. They stood in the space between beginnings. Here, Evelyn saw fragments of time forming like dust, each grain a potential reality. In one, she was never born. In another, she destroyed the world. A million possible selves orbited her like forgotten dreams. And then, the voice came. "You should not be here." It wasn't angry. It was disappointed. A figure emerged, shifting between forms. Old, young, man, woman, neither. It was time, or what time had once been. "Who are you?" Felix asked. The entity looked to Evelyn. "I am the first," it said, "the one who opened the loop, and the one who will end it." "You're the first?" Evelyn's voice barely carried across the weightless void. The entity regarded her with eyes that seemed both ancient and newborn. "I did not intend to be. I only sought to save a life, and in doing so, shattered the illusion of linear time." Helena stepped forward, scanning the figure. "You're human, or you were." "I was," it said. "My name was Dr. Callum Reese. In the 22nd century, I built the first unauthorized time probe. I sent it back to prevent a war. It failed, but the probe, it cracked the wall." Felix's eyes widened. "You caused the first anomaly. You're the reason any of this exists." "Not the reason," Reese corrected. "The origin. I became trapped here, in the paradox zone. Over time, I changed, rebuilt my consciousness from fractured timelines. Now I exist between cause and effect." Evelyn narrowed her eyes. "Then you know how to stop it. To stop the chain of paradoxes." The entity's form flickered. "I have tried. For centuries, I've lured time travelers here. Warned them. Erased memories. Delayed breaches. But someone always breaks the rules. Always, you." Evelyn stepped back. "Me? Not just you. Your legacy. Prime, the Accord, the Chrono Initiative. Your actions echo through time. Evelyn, in every loop, you are the pivot. Felix whispered, so what do you want from us? The void rippled as Reese raised a hand. A choice, he said. Go back, seal the past, live with what was, or come forward with me, to the place where time truly began. And learn the truth. Evelyn looked to Helena, then Felix. The weight of two timelines, two entire realities, pressed on her shoulders. But her voice was steady. Show me. The first step Evelyn took into the paradox realm echoed with no sound. The ground wasn't ground, it was memory. Time itself, compacted into thought. It shifted beneath her boots like the flicker of forgotten dreams. Helena and Felix followed, their forms slightly delayed, as if reality had to negotiate their presence. The sky above was a kaleidoscope of events. Battles, births, and betrayals rippled across clouds made of fractured moments. In the distance, a mountain rose, not of rock, but of converging timelines, spiraling into a vortex of decisions never made. We're not supposed to be here, Helena muttered. This place, it's made of choices that shouldn't exist. It's beautiful, Felix whispered. Terrifying, but beautiful. Evelyn turned her gaze to the entity beside them, Drive. Callum Reese, or whatever he had become. His body shimmered with alternating ages. Sometimes a young man, sometimes a withered elder, sometimes a shadow. His voice, when it came, seemed to speak across several versions of English at once. You must understand, Reese said, this is not a place to linger. The paradox realm devours identity. You may forget who you are if you stay too long. Then take us to the beginning, Evelyn said. Reese hesitated. There is a cost. The closer you go to the origin point, the more you must let go, of memories, of logic, of linear thought. You will see versions of yourselves you never knew existed. You may have to confront them. Felix glanced at Evelyn. What if one of those versions doesn't want us to make it through? Reese looked into the horizon. Then you fight, or become them. They moved forward. As they walked, time bled around them. Evelyn saw flashes of her past, her mother's final breath, her first time manipulating time, the moment she destroyed the Chrono Accord. But something was wrong. Some memories were off, her mother smiling when she should have cried. The Accord applauding her instead of condemning her. These aren't mine, she whispered. No, Reese said, they are the timeline's attempts to anchor you. Lies dressed as nostalgia. A cry pierced the air. A girl ran toward them from the mist. Small, trembling, bleeding from the forehead. Evelyn's heart stopped. It was her, at 8 years old. Don't go, the child pleaded. If you go forward, you'll forget Daddy. You'll forget me. Evelyn dropped to one knee, shaking. This isn't real, but it feels real. The child wept. Don't leave us behind. Behind her, more versions appeared. Evelyn at 16. Evelyn at 22. Evelyn at her most vulnerable. You have to walk through yourself to reach the source. Reese said quietly. That is the paradox. That is the trial. Evelyn stood, breathing hard. She stepped forward. The child Evelyn screamed, dissolved into mist. With every step, another version melted away, until only one remained. Evelyn Prime. Her reflection, cold-eyed, war-hardened, and ruthless. Felix stopped in his tracks. That's not you. Yes, Helena said grimly. It's who she could become. The mirrored Evelyn spoke, voice laced with venom. You want to fix time? To preserve it? Weak. I burned the loops to ash and created something better. You created a dictatorship of paradox. Evelyn snapped. I created freedom. The Prime said. No more rules. No more observation only. We are gods, Evelyn, and gods don't ask permission. The air cracked between them. You'll have to go through me. The ground split open between Evelyn and her prime self, revealing a chasm of pure temporal energy. Echoes of futures that never came to pass roared beneath, wars that ended before they began. Lovers who never met, children who were never born. Evelyn narrowed her eyes. I'm not afraid of you. Prime Evelyn smirked. Then you're not paying attention. She lunged, not with fists or weapons, but with memory. Waves of psychic energy crashed into Evelyn's mind, visions of failures she hadn't yet experienced. Felix dead in her arms. Helena turning against her. Humanity collapsing under its own temporal hubris. The unbearable silence of being the last mind left in time. Evelyn stumbled but didn't fall. Helena shouted, trying to run to her aid. But Reese held her back. She must fight this alone. Evelyn reached deep into herself. Past the pain, past the ambition, past even the mission, she found something simpler: choice. You're strong, Evelyn whispered, because you stopped caring. You think power means cutting yourself off. The Prime sneered. Compassion is a weakness. No, Evelyn said, straightening. It's the anchor. A pulse of light burst from her chest. Memories not of pain, but of connection. Her team, her students, her father's laugh, the trembling hope of those who once believed in her. Prime Evelyn hesitated. Her form flickered. For a moment, she seemed uncertain. That moment was enough. Evelyn charged. She didn't strike with hate. She embraced. She reached out, arms wide. The two versions collided and merged. Searing light exploded outward, blinding. When the glow faded, only one Evelyn stood, taller, steadier, a fusion of both strength and heart. She turned to the others. Let's go. Reese nodded. Odd. You passed. The paradox realm began to collapse around them, folding in on itself like a dream ending. Ahead, a staircase formed in the sky, each step built from the threads of causality. At the top, a glowing doorway. The origin point. Felix took Evelyn's hand. We're really going to see the beginning? No, Reese said softly. You're going to become it. They ascended together. Behind them, time unraveled. Ahead, truth waited. And as Evelyn crossed the final threshold, she realized she was no longer just a traveler through time. She was its mother. The light inside the origin point wasn't light at all, it was presence. Evelyn stepped through and felt everything at once. The ticking of the universe's first moment. The stretching fabric of space. The embryonic pulse of entropy. There was no floor, no ceiling, only infinite possibility. The others followed behind her, blinking against the sheer density of reality. Felix gasped. What is this place? Helena's voice trembled. It's not a place. It's before place. They stood in what could only be described as a field of uncollapsed potential. Equations floated like fireflies. Timelines branched and dissolved, rewritten by mere observation. Reese appeared beside them, no longer flickering with unstable age. He was stable now, real, and yet, more. This is the pre-singularity core, he said, the origin of time as the universe knows it. Every event, every timeline, was seated here. Evelyn looked around, overwhelmed. Then why bring us here? Reese's eyes shimmered. Because someone is corrupting the source. A ripple tore across the field. Where pure potential had once floated, darkness now seeped in, static in the code. Anomalies bled into existence, half-formed beings. Paradox beasts. Corrupted loops devouring themselves. Felix stepped back. That wasn't here before. It's not natural, Reese said. Someone, or something, has injected corrupted logic into the Genesis code. Helena's face hardened. Let me guess. It's not from this universe? Reese nodded. It's outside time. A remnant of the failed timelines Evelyn erased. A revenge. Evelyn clenched her fists. So I didn't destroy them. I buried them, and they're trying to crawl back. A new presence emerged ahead. Unlike anything they'd seen. It didn't walk. It unfolded, like a concept becoming self-aware. Its voice was a chorus of contradictions. You stole our futures. It hissed. You played God. Evelyn stepped forward. I corrected imbalance. You chose one path, the entity replied, and discarded the rest. Now they've found a new host. Felix whispered. What host? The entity split open, revealing a flicker of a familiar face. Evelyn's, but distorted, pale, hollow-eyed, a version of her who had embraced total control. Reese gasped. A recursive Evelyn, born from the discarded timelines. The corrupted Evelyn smiled. I'm every mistake you refused to live with. I'm the version of you who never stopped. I didn't save time. I rewrote it. Helena raised her weapon, but Evelyn lowered it. No, this is my responsibility. She stepped forward again. If you're part of me, then you know what's coming. I know, the corrupted self replied, and I welcome it. And without another word, the two Evelyns charged, mirror versus mirror. Choice versus chaos. They collided with no sound. Only silence, deafening, vast, the kind that exists between the beats of a newborn universe. Evelyn met her corrupted self head-on. Not with violence, but with intent. Every motion was a paradox. Each strike a question. Each parry a refusal. Around them, the pre-singularity core rippled with each choice made, unmade, and remade again. The corrupted Evelyn fought with a cold brilliance. She summoned lost futures like weapons, cities built on tyranny. Versions of Felix and Helena turned into tools. Twisted timelines sharpened into blades. Every moment was a trap she had already laid. You can't win, she hissed. I've seen every outcome. In most, you fail. Evelyn answered through gritted teeth. Then let me be the one where I don't. With a scream of willpower, Evelyn rewrote the space around them, slowing entropy, anchoring memory. Her allies weren't just watching anymore, they were part of her now. Felix's resilience, Helena's clarity, Reese's knowledge, they became extensions of her mind. Corrupted Evelyn faltered. What are you doing? Evelyn held her ground. You think strength is domination. It's connection. The corrupted one tried to phase out, escape into another possibility, but Evelyn caught her. You're me. That's why I can end this. And then Evelyn did something her counterpart didn't expect. She forgave her. A wave of golden light poured from Evelyn's core, compassion, grief, acceptance. It wrapped around the corrupted version and held her in place. Not to destroy, but to integrate. Bit by bit, the twisted timelines melted, folding back into Evelyn's timeline like tributaries returning to a river. The anomaly screamed, and then ceased. The silence that followed was different. Not empty, but full of breath, of relief. Felix was the first to speak. Did we win? Reese stepped forward, scanning the fabric of the core. Not one. Healed. Evelyn exhaled slowly, falling to her knees. Helena caught her. You okay? Evelyn nodded weakly. She's part of me now. But not in control. They stood at the heart of creation. And for the first time since the journey began, it felt balanced. What happens now? Felix asked. Reese gestured toward the field of infinite possibility. The core is yours to shape. Helena looked around. That's a terrifying amount of responsibility. Evelyn smiled faintly. Then we'll share it. She turned, facing the glowing threads of time waiting to be woven, and began again, not as a god, not as a guardian, but as the mother of time. The river behind Evelyn shimmered, calm now, no longer fracturing into chaos. The threads of time flowed smoothly again, stitched by intent, not impulse. They had done it. Weeks, or perhaps eons, had passed since they left the pre-singularity core. Time no longer moved in a straight line for Evelyn. Instead, it pulsed, like a living heart she could listen to. She sat alone on a bench overlooking a quiet lake in Vermont. Autumn leaves whispered across the ground. To everyone else, it was just another October day. But she knew better. This was the October day, reborn, restored, re-chosen. Footsteps approached. Felix sat beside her, tossing her a thermos of hot tea. Thought you might be here, he said. You're hard to find these days. Evelyn took a sip. I've been balancing things. Still hearing the timelines? She nodded. Quieter now, like whispers, less screaming. Felix smiled. Helena says the world feels lighter, like something bad didn't happen. But no one remembers what it was. That's because it didn't, Evelyn said softly. Not anymore. They sat in silence for a while. Above them, the sky was just sky. No cracks, no warnings, no anomalies, just blue. Felix broke the silence. Do you miss it? Evelyn tilted her head. The power? He nodded. She considered it. I miss the clarity. When you stand outside of time, everything makes sense. Down here, it's messier, harder, but real. Felix added. Exactly. A wind stirred the leaves. Evelyn stood, gazing across the lake. There will be others, she said. Others like you? No. Others who'll try to manipulate time. Twist it, break it. They won't remember what I did. But time has memory now. It won't forget. Felix looked at her, curious. And you? Evelyn turned, smiling. I'm done rewriting the world. She handed him the thermos, took one last look at the calm lake, then walked away, leaving behind footprints in the fallen leaves. But as she disappeared into the trees, a faint glimmer danced in the air behind her. A ripple. Small, gentle. A reminder. That time is never truly still. Blank. Blank. The end. Thank you for listening to my channel. If this story moved you, inspired you, or simply kept you company, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing it with others who love great storytelling. Until we meet again in the next journey, take care and keep your imagination alive.